Hello, everyone. Today is Quebec National Day. This day celebrates Quebec culture, identity, history, and of course, the French language. So I chose to make a video about the most Quebecois thing that I can think of here outside of Quebec, the Bloc Quebecois. More specifically, I decided to make a video on the entire history of the Bloc Quebecois, and here it is. The Bloc Quebecois started in 1990 because the Quebecois weren't happy with the ruling Conservative Party. Why? Well, because the Quebecois didn't think that the Conservatives cared much about Quebec. This is because of the failure of the Meech Lake Accord. Prime Minister at that time, Brian Mulroney, wanted Quebec, which was the only province to not be on board with the new constitution from 1982, to finally accept the new constitution. While the Bloc Quebecois technically separated from the Conservatives, they are a left leaning party, and even then, some of their members were from the Liberal Party. The first election that the Bloc Quebecois participated in was in 1993. This election was a massive success. The party won 54 seats in the House. The Liberals won the election, while the Conservatives won only 2 seats, with their new leader, Kim Campbell, losing her own seat. Most of the Conservative seats went to the Reform Party. However, they only won 52 seats, meaning that the Bloc were the official opposition. Their leader at this time, Lucien Bouchard, retired from his position in 1996 to run for the Premier of Quebec. He actually won that race and became the Premier of Quebec 13 days after he resigned as the leader of the Bloc. He was replaced as leader of the Bloc by Gilles Duceppe. Gilles Duceppe led the party into the 1997 election. This election saw the Bloc lose 6 seats and Reform gain 10, forcing the Bloc out of official opposition. Now that the Bloc didn't have the burden of being official opposition, they had time to think about what they stood for. They wanted LGBTQ rights, abolition of the monarchy, and of course, Quebec sovereigntism. At the next election, the Bloc Québécois thought they were going to gain seats, but in fact, they lost 6. Reform, now called Alliance, won 8 seats. At the next election in 2004, their leader, Gilles Duceppe, was still pretty popular. This was shown and proven in this election, with the Bloc winning an extra 21 seats, going up to 54. This was the largest caucus that the Bloc Québécois ever held in their entire history. Only 2 years would pass from the last election in 2004 until the next election in 2006. However, the Bloc Québécois still found a way to lose a seat within the time frame, going down to 53 seats. At the next election, they lost an extra 2, going down to 51 seats. Still pretty respectable, though. Once again, the next election would take place 2 years after the previous one. However, before the next election, the Bloc lost 5 seats this time, going down to 48 seats before the next election. They won one extra seat in the election to go up to 49 seats in the House after the 2008 election. The Conservatives won the election, yes, but they didn't win a majority. This made the Liberals, now led by Stéphane Dion, try to overthrow Prime Minister Stephen Harper with the help of the NDP and the Bloc. This made the Canadians very mad and made Stéphane Dion resign as leader. He was then replaced by Michael Ignatieff. Ignatieff attempted to push forward many no confidence votes against the Harper government. In 2011, one of them finally passed, forcing an early election, with, of course, Ignatieff's Liberals voting yes, but also Jack Layton's NDP voting yes, and Gilles Duceppe's Bloc Québécois voting yes. However, this backfired heavily on the Bloc, as they were reduced down to 4 seats. This election saw the Bloc go down to their lowest seat share in their entire history. It also heavily backfired on the Liberals, as they were reduced to 34 seats, the worst in their history. It was also the first time in Canadian history that the Liberals weren't either first or second. This is because the NDP massively benefited from this election, going up to 103 seats, the highest in their history, making them the official opposition again for the first time in their history. Before the next election, the Bloc Quebecois lost half of their seats. This is because two of their members were stolen by a new party called Strength in Democracy. This party tried to run in the 2015 election, but didn't win a single seat and really didn't do well in either, and then folded subsequently. But the Bloc Quebecois won 8 more seats, going up to 10. The NDP did still have quite a bit of seats in Quebec, but not quite the same as in 2011. The leader in that 2015 election was Gilles Duceppe, just like in 1997. But after the massive defeat back in 2011, Duceppe actually resigned as the leader of the bloc and was replaced by Vivienne Barbeau for 7 months until she herself was succeeded by a guy called Daniel Payet. He was the leader of the party for 2 years when he was replaced by Mario Beaulieu. Beaulieu was the president of the Bloc Québécois before becoming leader. He was also the leader before Duceppe retained his office again in 2015, and after he resigned, just after Martine Ouellet. Bolo was the president until 2011 and 2018, when he was succeeded by Yves-François Blanchet. The first election that Blanchet was leader for was back in 2019. This election saw a gain of 22 seats for the Bloc, rising up to 32. This was the biggest success for the Bloc Québécois since 2008. The bloc almost entirely kicked out of the NDP from Quebec, holding on to just one seat. For the first time since 2008, the bloc were back into third place in the House. The next election was in 2021, where Justin Trudeau called an early election, thinking that he was going to win heavily. While he did win the election, he could not win a majority government, only gaining 5 seats. The only party to see a change in their seats was the NDP, which gained 1. The Conservatives, Greens, and Bloc did not see a change in seat numbers after this election. After this election, the next election was in 2025. This election saw people going back to the two main parties, the Liberals and the Conservatives. Because of this, the Liberals won the election easily, with 169 seats, only 3 away from a majority. The Bloc suffered from this, going down 11 seats, winning only 22. However, a seat near Montreal, Terrebonne, went to the Liberals by 1 vote. However, there was a Bloc vote which didn't count. The Bloc are challenging this result, but I don't think it's likely to go anywhere. There you go. That's the entire history of the Bloc Québécois.